Tuia, uia mai tātou, katoa I roto I tēnei pō. Kia ora everybody, Che Wilson here from Te Pai Pai Waho, connecting to you tonight through a number of different platforms. And just want to send a big mihi out to everybody. This will be my last session on MARAE 101. I've had about 10 sessions on MARAE 101, so I think that's enough. Hoi anō, e tangi ana ki o tātou mate, e taku te mai te tamarongo, Auntie Rona, kei taku prata, ko koe I tēnei pō, te kuia ki mani aroa, koutou ki te pō, e moe e oki. Sending our love to the whānau who are going through different tangi over the last week, and also mihi to us, te kaupapa tangata. And I didn't join in last night because I decided to spend some time with my in-laws, being Irish. The Māori All Blacks in Ireland game was a pretty cool game to be at, even though we lost, and want to acknowledge the Irish because it's one of those teams that I'm quite happy to lose. Not that I want to lose, but just want to acknowledge the Irish. And as my wife said to our son, the thing is, son, is when we play Ireland, we never lose. Only Dad loses. So if that's not a Bob each way or ka mate kainga te ka ora kainga rua, then what is? Well, no. Tonight, it's the last session of MARAE 101. We'll start up with a new kaupapa next week. And tonight is about being intentional about your time when you're at the marae. But I just want to mihi to this kaupapa because, oh, hey, cuz. Hey, Jen. I started off some time ago now with an introduction into MARAE 101. Then I talked about the relevance of MARAE and are we being sticklers for protocol and being stuck in the mud and therefore not necessarily as relevant as we could be. Then I talked about the evolution of the warepuni and photos and things like that associated with the warepuni, the meeting house. Talked about service and how you can help your marae. Doesn't all need to be dishes or pai or whatever else, but what are the other skills that you bring and how you can help your marae. And all of you that know how to fill out those funding applications, then you're definitely needed as well. Those of you that are good at fundraising, you're definitely needed as well. Talked about papakainga. Talked about governance and operations. And, you know, one of the saddest things is the amount of time that different whānau take each other to court about the marae. And it's just that we're so well colonised that we use mechanisms that will eat away at us. And that's not just law, that can be tikanga as well, because we will use tikanga as a weapon rather than as an enabler. Then I talked a bit more about succession and the importance of succession and rebuilding a marae after a fire or things like that. And it was nice to meet my relation in Wellington that night who asked for that kaupapa. And then I talked about what's tū tapu. It was a bit of a rant that, but I got quite a lot of positive feedback. And really, I think sometimes we use tapu as an excuse to not progress things. In addition to that, I think we use tapu or tikanga or whatever as an excuse to actually hide our lack of knowledge on something. And in between all of that, I had 2 sessions on puanga, just to acknowledge puanga and the puanga matariki phases. And we're now here at kaupapa number mutunga for MARAE 101, which is being intentional about your time at the pā. And I wanted to cover this because we live in a world that's busy. we judge people based on what we think is busy. Um, and so people see me being, a headless chicken. Oh, you're so busy. Whereas there are times where I'm definitely not busy, but because people have made their decision on what it is, that you're just busy. Um, and as a result of that, people go, "Oh, I don't want to bother them." And I've learnt that I'm not that accessible, because people have created these things in their heads where, oh no, he's too busy, we can't contact him. And especially if they know me well, they will leave me alone because they're worried that I'm too busy. And what I want to share is, how do we be more intentional when we go back to the pa? And I was just in a meeting tonight online, and this kaupapa was raised because you go to a tangi and then you organise to have a meeting at a certain time because you know, oh, actually, the funeral service will be over and then I can just do the sui. And what my relation said to me is, actually, I should never have organised the hui for the afternoon because I should have just enjoyed being with the whānau at the tangi, and knowing that I could have just stayed at the back to help clean up as they went to the urupa. All of those different things. Because if we do that, and I had an opportunity tonight where I wasn't intentional and instead, went to a tangi of a kuia that I never met and that I never knew, but because some of her whānau needed my support and I was driving past, I says, yeah, I'll stop him. It's on my way, so I stopped him. What I didn't do is I should have stayed a bit longer, just to stay and hang out, because the short period that I was there, it was lovely. And, we had a minister of the Crown there, and he came back to his kuia. He was shocked that I was there. And I said, well, got the call. I was coming this way. Had to pick up some stuff from that person. And I'm not going to go around the back gate, pick it up, and then carry on, because that's just kino. And my old people would call me a tauti and other things as well. But it taught me something, that I could have stayed longer. And I think these things allow us to believe that we're busy. Whereas the moment I had when I left the Warepune was just outside the Warekai. I was talking to Auntie Toya from Taumaranui, and just her holding my hand, that moment was really lovely. And she was just talking about different kaupapa. And these queer like her and Whaia Christine, they get shit done. They're mobilizers of people. And and a lot of mobilizers have a lot of enemies because they're either poo high or they're wondering, how come I should have been doing that, not them. But what I like about mobilizers is they get stuff done, and they're ideal for the marae, to help the marae grow and be improved, as well as the people at the marae. But just taking that time to spend a moment with her, holding her hand as we talked, was really intentional. It was really nice, and you can walk away from that smiling that you took some time. Because I'm mindful when people hear the word intention, and I'll be a bit more intentional with your time and all of that. People can sometimes create this big movie and go, oh, but I don't have time to do that. That intentional moment with Auntie might have been 2 or 3 minutes, but it was really nice because we were both in the moment. And intention doesn't need to take a long time. It just needs to be heartfelt. And I think if we're more intentional with our time, while we're at the marae, it will help us connect to place, it will help us connect to whakapapa, and it will help us build a legacy with memories that make our hearts warm. Because if there's one thing I've learnt about the journey that we are on in revitalizing our connection to identity, is too many people have had traumatic experiences associated with people while at the marae. But sadly, the poor old marae gets the blame for it, when actually it's the people, not the marae. And so I'm just encouraging everybody, be intentional when you're at the pa, and be open to saying, actually, I didn't do that right, and I should have probably done that, so the next time I'm there, I'm going to do it. So this is the end of Marae 101. As I said, I will find another take next week. Some other things to think about at the marae. Recycling. How does your marae do recycling? How does your marae do parakore? Containers. Does your marae save containers so that the uri don't take the plates home and never bring them back? Number 3. Do you have a marae amnesty? We've got a cousin at my marae, at mum's marae, where she sends out a message, "Kia ora family, I'll be coming around to visit all your houses over the next couple of weeks, just to take back all of the plates and that you may have accidentally forgotten to bring back to the marae." Have an amnesty. They're really good. Because you take things with the right intention that you're going to bring them back, and you never do. So have an amnesty and have a heap of containers so you don't need to take the plate. Some other things. How do you sort out the possums and the rats? By scratching in the wall and running around in the back of the kitchen when you're all up in the wharepuni having a hui. How do you sort all of that stuff out? Because that's a hoha too. So katiake. Stay well, stay warm. Wearing my hat tonight reminds me of how big my head is. It's a buff head. Hoi anō, e me I kawatua ana kia koutou I roto I tēnei pō. Kia aio ngā uatanga o tēnei pō. Kia mārire ngā uatanga o tēnei pō. Koutou, ki te pō, tātou e takatū nei, rire au, pai mārire. Kia ora tātou.